Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. If you live in Alaska, don't forget to vote today. It's really critical that we have somebody really awesome as the mayor of Anchorage, because that muni position really has a huge impact on all of us. So get out and vote. So I am super excited to have Dr. Kim Williams with me today. Dr. Kim and I have known each other a couple of years. This woman definitely knows how to rise up and keep pushing on another day. She has really gone through a lot, even just since I have known her. And I think it was a week ago, it could have been 2 weeks ago now, I did a Facebook Live about just the importance of mental health, that in cold environments, April is the #1 month for individuals to take their life. Suicide is at the highest level in April. And as explained to us at church a few months ago, it's because a lot of people tell themselves, oh, it's the winter time, so I can hold on to through the winter. I'm just sad, I'm depressed, I have no hope because look at this weather. I'll wait till spring. Like, spring is going to bring a renewal of my mind. Spring is going to bring a renewal of my energy, of my happiness. And then spring comes and they recognize like it hasn't changed. And so they feel very hopeless and sometimes take their lives. And so I had mentioned on that broadcast, if you would like to share your message of hope with my community, with others, please let me know. And as always, Dr. Kim reached out and said, hey, I can share. So I said, let's do it. So Dr. Kim, thanks so much and welcome.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. So will you share your perspective with us? What happened in your family?
Oh, so I have quite a bit of perspective with suicide. My brother actually committed suicide. I guess it's been 34 years now. It's been a long time. I hadn't really thought about it until you had mentioned that, because it's something that doesn't ever go away, though. Mental health issues in my family have been significant for a very, very long time. And it did strike me because I'm a very positive, upbeat person. I'm a glass half full kind of person. And so when people find out that I struggled myself with suicide and that suicide is an issue in my family, they usually are shocked because it's not something they would think of with myself. I personally attempted suicide 5-6 times in my teenage and early adult years. Up until I was 25 years old, struggled with suicide. So well into my adult years, and my brother was 32 when he actually took his life. So he would have been 66 going on. Yeah.
Wow. So Kim, let's talk about it first then from your perspective, since it's an act that you have considered yourself. In looking back and now, even because it's something that your family, it's very real to, what, it's not the people who just like, how many times, and we were discussing this before we went live, how do we know, like, what does the face of suicide look like how can we possibly know?
I don't think you can know. I think it's something that everyone needs to realize, that we all go through these phases. It's something that impacts every family everywhere. There's somebody that knows somebody that's been impacted by suicide. Gosh, especially with COVID, we've seen this rise so much, but I don't think you can. I think you can look at somebody and say, oh, that person's suicidal, because maybe we call the introvert the suicidal person, but I'm not the introvert. I'm an extrovert.
No,
I have no problem getting up in front of groups of people and interacting in that. And yet I came very close to committing suicide. My sister found me and actually rescued me. So it wasn't even like an idolation of suicide. I actually attempted suicide, and except for the grace of God, I'm still here. And I think that probably my biggest thing is, coming from a family that struggled with abuse and mental health issues, and the water gets real muddy there. It's real muddy between someone that has committed a wrong and someone that has been injured by a wrong. And so we can get wrapped up in bitterness and anger and all these other things, and it just spirals. It always spirals to somewhere bad. But I don't think you can ever look at a person and see that that's what's going on, which is why we need to, I think, live and operate from a place of grace. That people are doing the best that they can with
Hmm.
the tools that they have at the time in their life. My parents, I could judge all kinds of things. Then you become a parent and you can put that same measuring spoon against yourself, and you just don't ever realize what people are going through. So love people, smile at people, for God's sakes, hug people. For this whole COVID thing and not touching people. I really think that we just need to be able to talk about it more, and people like myself that look normal, act normal, accomplish things in their life and become, they're not supposed to have these issues, but they do. They really do. And I know there's others just like myself.
I think that brings up so many really great points. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was sharing with me that a young girl that she knows, a 10-year-old, pre-COVID was in a group of 5 little girls. Well,
Wow.
you and I both know a wolf pack of girls is nothing to mess with, right?
Yeah.
And their lunch table post COVID only holds 4. So guess what? This little girl has been isolated all
Wow.
by herself because of these ridiculous rules,
Yeah.
and has shared like the turmoil that she is now experiencing.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching, who are making rules that are impacting children, could you please like fast forward 6 months or a year and really understand what you are doing, because
Yeah.
their sadness and their quote unquote blood, it's on your hands,
Amen.
because you're the ones that are making the rules that are going to have a lasting impact on these little lives, and it's not fair. It's
No,
way worse for a child to experience mental turmoil than potentially to
it's
have
sick.
COVID, right? Like it has the most
Yeah.
amazing survival rates, and yet we have shut down the world and created all of this chaos, which doesn't need to happen, for the profiteering of a few billionaires around the world. So there, I said it. What everyone
and
else
we and
thinking.
we digress, right? But yes,
Uh,
I 100% agree. And the unattended consequences of what's happening,
hmm.
those stories have yet to be told, if they'll ever be fully told. But I really just think from an individual perspective that we have to live a life of grace, and we have to love the people that God puts in front of us right there every day, even the unlikable people. Sometimes we get some unlikable people. I remember back during that time, I was not a very likable person. And most of the time those are just people that need someone to help them find that way.
you know, um, and I think it's the little things. Like I guess I'm not ashamed to admit it was a few weeks ago, and I was just like up in my head and not in a very good mood, and was grocery shopping, which I'm not a fan of errands. And I wasn't very nice to the young man who was bagging my groceries. And I walked out to my car, and like the Holy Spirit just convicted me. So I put my groceries away and I walked back in, and I walked up to him and I said, "You might think I'm completely crazy. And for the most part, I am. I just wanted to ask your forgiveness for not being very kind to you and not really showing you a whole lot of grace." And he looked at me like, "Okay, that's weird." And however he took it is how he took it. it was my responsibility to right the wrong. And I think that that kind of grace is also really necessary, that we may think it's something small, but it may be really big to that person. Like, who knows if their thoughts were like, no one likes me. Oh, and now here a stranger doesn't like me. And
Yeah.
so like that's one of the other reasons, like I go against the grain and not wearing a mask is everyone loves a smile.
Gosh, yeah.
Who doesn't love a smile? And so even if you just pull it down and give others a smile, you don't know if maybe that was their cue to push through another day. And
Yeah.
and you watching this right now, you can be the difference maker.
Yeah.
You can be that person who says, even if I don't know you, I see you. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people feel like they just don't matter?
Yeah.
I think.
It's interesting to me too, having been this far out from someone who committed suicide, and you realize how desperately much life changes, and has gone on and has continued. And I have a good friend that his grandson just committed suicide this past year, and he was like 17, and just a young kid, and there's so much life that's left to live. And we get in those spots of desperation where you think that this is it and that's all it's ever going to be. And yet when you're here and you go, gosh, that was so very long ago, and everything has entirely changed, and people just need to know that.
Mhm. And for those who aren't aware, or maybe just need to hear it again, like, God's big enough for any storm. He's big enough for any problem. He knows yesterday, today, and forever. He is unchanged. And he is the rock. If you don't know him as your personal Lord and Savior, I got to tell you, this life would be really tough.
Yeah.
But when I know that there's a reason for it, and it's not to beat me down. Most of the storms in life are for us to be able to see his mercy and his grace and his love, and the very fact that we have been forgiven of so much means that we can forgive others. I encourage all of you, um to remember what you know. It's really easy throughout life to forget what we know to be true. And I think Kim will agree with me, and all of you watching. Can you control what other people think?
Oh,
Are you sure?
yeah.
And all of you watching, are you sure? Like, you know for sure you cannot control what other people think. We all know that, right? And because we can't control what they think, we can't control what they feel, because our feelings are simply the shadow of our thoughts. We cannot feel anything we don't first think. So if you know you cannot control how other people think, you can't control how they feel. And
Yeah.
and yet so much of our life we act as if we pretend not to remember that. We pretend not to know I can't control how other people think. And so much of our life is like jockeying to make other people happy. I'm just worried. I'm just trying so hard to make everyone happy. Stop the insanity.
Yeah.
You cannot make anyone else happy, because joy is our natural state.
Yeah.
It's what you were given at birth. And so their journey is their journey, and you can come alongside individuals. But if you are making yourself nuts because you're worried about what other people think, you don't, like, remember, you can't control that.
Yeah.
And remember this, you don't have a crystal ball. None of us have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
The only way we know the future is because we're moving towards it, right? And as you keep moving, more will be revealed. It's like walking in a forest. If you want to know what's ahead, you have to move in that direction. Like the trees don't just suddenly lay down and you see a trail, you see more as you move forward.
Yeah.
So Kim, as we round this out, what words of advice do you have for someone who let's just take it from the perspective of a healthcare provider, and what are things that you're committed to in your practice, given what you have experienced in your life and given the lens of mental health?
So, I think one of the key things that we do is we talk to people and we listen. And that's my entire premise of my practice is, we set aside in my practice, I set aside an entire hour at the beginning of the first patient encounter where they can just be heard. And we try to involve the family, whoever that support structure is. And I really think that I go out of my way to make sure that I hear what they're saying, is their concerns, and to try and read between those lines where we need to be, but just being present at each person so that we can hear what they're trying to say. Because most people are telling us what's going on with them. If we just stop and listen, they've been telling lots of people, just no one hears them.
I love that. Like, shut up and listen. Right? If you want to
Two
know what
ears and
someone
one
wants,
mouth.
yeah. If you want to know what someone wants, ask them.
Yeah.
And then be quiet.
Believe them.
And here's a test all of us can put ourselves through to really know if we're a listener or if we're a talker. Are you interrupting?
Yeah.
If you're an interrupter, you're a talker, you're not a listener. And remember, there are three kinds of listening. There's listening to affirm, which is just the person who's like, yep, yep, ooh, awesome, yep, yep, which is like, I'm not really listening to you. I'm just affirming so that you think that I'm engaged in this conversation. Listening to affirm. There's listening to refute. And all of us have dealt with that person who pretty much they're forming their rebuttal while you're speaking, and they're so excited to refute what you're saying that they interrupt you to interject their experience or to tell you that you're wrong or whatever. And remember, it's only their perspective. And thinking creates our reality. So all they're doing is exposing their thinking to you, which may or may not be true for you. So thinking creates our reality. And then the third is active listening. And active listening is I'm listening and I'm just taking in, absorbing, and then responding.
Yeah.
Based on your like what you're saying. So clarification, points of agreement, solution, it's a formula that we've talked about in the boot camp, or actually I've been talking about for 22 years as a coach. Clarification, points of agreement, solution. And you cannot get to points of agreement if you're not listening. So listen hard and talk a lot. Kim, thank you so much for joining me
You're
today.
welcome.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being willing to share those sensitive and tender things in your life in order to help others. I love your heart, and I'm so thankful to be your friend, your colleague, and your coach.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. God bless you all. And if there's anything at all that we can do to help